He's a rock and roll legend, a fine actor, and a great overall human being, and he changed the music industry to such an extent that the people of my generation basically didn't really understand him, but the people of the younger generation really never heard of him. But for me, David Johansen, also known as Buster Poindexter, has unfortunately passed away at 75. He was suffering from a long illness. He had talked about his illness in recent posts, and it's no shock he's passing away. He was in bad shape. Now, Johansen was the last surviving member of the original New York Dolls lineup. Now, passed away at age 75. Now, according to Chris Eurofita of CBC News, he was a charismatic frontman of the influential proto-punk band New York Dolls, and later creator of alter ego Buster Poindexter, sort of like a jazz kind of, Frank Sinatra type. Now, Johansen died Friday. He's home in New York City. Jeff Kilgore, a family spokesperson, told AP. Johnson health status has been updated by his stepdaughter, Leah Hennessy, in January as a part of a fundraiser with the Sweet Relief Musicians Fund. Hennessy said Johansen had been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer during the pandemic and also had a brain tumor. A fall several weeks earlier had left him bedridden and requiring around-the-clock care. This is the worst pain I've ever experienced in my entire life. I've never been one to ask for help, but this is an emergency, Johansen said in an accompanying statement. His passing ends a unique career as a quintessential New York City artist, with turns that include a recent stint as a DJ on the Sirius XM show and some acting roles, most notably as a cigar-chomping cab driver with rotting teeth, The Ghost of Christmas Past, in 88 Scrooge, starring Bill Murray. Now, his colorful life was captured in 2023's Personality Crisis, co-directed by Martin Scorsese and David Tedeschi, and executive produced by Ron Howard and his good friend Brian Glazer. The title of the documentary came from a handful of enduring songs from the Dolls, a band that was described by leading New York City rock critic Robert Christgau as mixing early 60s pop song savvy with late 60s fast metal anarchy. A handful of the band's songs became the touchstones for punk, alternative, and rock bands, and versions of Personality Crisis would be recorded by Scott Weiland, Sonic Youth, and Teenage Fan Club, while Guns N' Roses included a Human Being on their Spaghetti Incident covers album. The band, volatile off stage and often leaving destruction in their wake, also favored heels, makeup, and women's clothing. Only Johansen among them could be remotely described as androgynous, resembling Mick Jagger to his bandmates, Butch from the R Gang, the Little Rascals. Now, I had to go to jail once dressed like Liza Minnelli, Johansen quipped to a British talk show, captured in Personality Crisis. Now, Johansen was the last to join the band after initially demurring, as described by bandmate Sylvain in the 2008 memoir, There's No Bones in Ice Cream. He dressed like we did. He liked the same music as we did, and he had the same dramatic effect when he walked into a room as we did, said Sylvain. The girls would stare and the guys would glare. Now, improbably, despite Johansen's subsequent further afield stunts as Poindexter, as well as albums of Americana music with backup group Harry Smith's, the Three Living Dolls at the time reunited for a 2004 Meltdown Festival lineup curated by superfan Morrissey. England always got the Dolls, and that show was bordering on euphoria, Johansen told Mojo magazine years later. A version of the Dolls piloted by Johansen and Sylvain would go on to record 3 more studio albums. Now, born to a Norwegian father and Irish mother in the New York City borough of Staten Island, on January 9, 1950, he was the oldest of 6 siblings. Most of the people in my family sing, dances are always in plays. He told AP in the late 80s. I was the least inclined in that direction. I'm the one who took it up as a profession. But he grew up entranced by music heard on the radio and from record shops, blues, doo-wop, R&B, and early rock, and played in bands as a teen. By 71, when New York Dolls began to rehearse, he was eking out a living in underground clothing stores and theater groups. Now, the original lineup coalesced from acquaintances and high school friends from the outer New York City boroughs. Guitarist Johnny Thunders, also known as John Gazzaley, Sylvain, Roland Mizrahi, drummer Billy Mercia, and bass player Arthur Killer Kane. Now, soon after debuting to paying customers in early 72, they were making the biggest splash of an underground New York band since the Velvet Underground in the mid-60s. They brought a sense of fun and self-awareness of rock and roll at a time when perhaps things were getting a bit more serious than they needed to be, said Lenny Kaye, rock journalist and Patti Smith group guitarist. In the 2004 documentary Looking for Johnny, The Legend of Johnny Thunders. Now, David Bowie in September 72 famously attended a doll show at one of the main haunts, the Mercer Art Center, housed in a dilapidated hotel that would partially collapse months later, killing 4. He also gained notice in the British music press, with Johansen the most voluble in the band. He once described their proclivities as trisexual. It wasn't like we would talk about what we were doing to sound like or going to sound like or what we were going to look like or anything. We just kind of did it, Johansen told Mojo decades later. But during a tour in November 72, Mercia, described as the least likely member of the band to engage in self-destructive behavior, died of an accidental overdose. With Jerry Nolan as a drummer, the band would debut on disc with a self-titled release produced by Todd Rundgren in 73. It takes brats from the outer boroughs to capture the oppressive excitement Manhattan holds for a half-formed human being the way these guys do. Chris Goh, who wrote in the Village Voice and Cream, doling out a rare A- review. Now, future Good Morning America film critic Joel Siegel, then a reporter for New York's CBS television affiliate, was more bemused, describing a band concert at the time as always belligerent, hostile, and definitely loud. Now, the following year saw the release of Too Much Too Soon, but neither album sold massively, and the band was paired on the road with any number of acts, including Bachman Turner Overdrive and Rush. Personality conflicts arose, and both Thunders and Nolan were addicted to heroin, with Johansen and Kane said to be heavy drinkers. Now, British music and fashion impresario Malcolm McLaren would guide the Sex Pistols, briefly bolster the Dolls' enthusiasm for several months, though his choice of red leather suits for the band raised eyebrows. Now, the final show of the original lineup was in late 76. Less than 2 years later, Johansen was releasing the first of 4 solo albums that featured contributions from Joe Perry, Ian Hunter, Nona Hendrix, and Patti Scialfa, Springsteen's wife. Now, his solo career saw him over The Who, but didn't lead to commercial success. Tiring of life on the road, by the mid-80s he was dabbling incognito in New York clubs as Poindexter, with a repertoire of songs, usually decades old, that jump genres. Now, he also promoted the album with a series of appearances with the Saturday Night Live house band and a duet with guest host Sigourney Weaver on Baby It's Cold Outside. Now, post-Scrooge, acting roles that didn't make as much impact for Johansen, as he appeared in commercial flops Mr. Nanny with Hulk Hogan, Free Jack, both he and Jagger had supporting roles, and Let It Ride. Now, the 21st century saw him bounce from passion project musically, with the Dolls reunited for Rundgren as a producer on 2009's 'Cause I Said So. In the years before his death, he was sharing his eclectic music knowledge on a serious radio show, David Johansen's Mansion of Fun. Again, he was the last surviving member of the original lineup. Now, Thunders died in a heroin overdose in 91, with Nolan following months later after a prolonged illness. Kane died 3 weeks after the 2004 reunion of leukemia, with Savannah dying age 69 in 2021 of cancer. Ladies and gentlemen, a big loss for rock and roll, and a big loss for all the fans of glam rock, Bowie, and all the great British artists. He was a tremendous talent, and ladies and gentlemen, we're lucky that he lived as long as he did, because he played hard, he sang hard, and he lived hard. And like I said, being the last surviving member to be alive and being the key one, it's kind of ironic, isn't it? So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing here with our musical vintage tributes, let us know in the like, comment, subscribe, or share.